here sharing with you. The gospel reading from this morning is taken from the book of Luke, and it's in the 4th chapter, and it begins at the 14th chapter, at the 14th verse. Then Jesus, filled with the power of the Spirit, returned to Galilee, and a report on him spread throughout all the surrounding country. He began to teach in their synagogues and was praised by everyone. When he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, he went to the synagogue on Sabbath day, as was his custom. He stood up to read, and the scroll of the prophet Isaiah was given to him, and he unrolled the scroll and found the place where it was written, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim release to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, and to let the oppressed go free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." And he rolled up the scroll, gave it back to the attendant, and he sat down. The eyes of all in the synagogue were fixed on him. Then he began to say to them, Today this scripture has been fulfilled in your hearing. This is the gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ. And he sat down. This is a little low for me to sit down. Next week when I have the kids' sermon here, we will sit down, and I might need help getting back up. It's such a delight to be here today. It is such a delight. Now, you saw the sign posted. It said, hey, what about that resolution? What about that resolution? Where are you on those resolutions? You remember? It was only a few days ago that we made those resolutions say, by golly, this year.
I didn't.
Yeah. This year. But I have to tell you, first of all, where'd Ray go? Where's Ray? There's Ray. Ray said that he was concerned that his side of the pew never got all the offerings that will be next week. Let's make Ray proud. All right? Let's make Ray proud. Another thing, Ray, is I went to the funeral of a dear friend yesterday, a mutual friend, Ray Ott, 102 years old. Ray, my first recollections of Ray, we lived where Seaway Drive, just north of Henry, immediately north of Henry, actually 2 lots, or 2 lots in an alley, then that was our house. You probably drive over 100 times where I used to live. And Ray was coming up to the door, and I always ran to the door to see, or not Ray, but Herb, to see what Herb was delivering. He delivered our milk. And he had a horse-drawn wagon.
Wow.
Is he really that old? Yeah. But he had a horse-drawn wagon, and that, I need to go down just a tad. I'm getting a little bit of feedback. All right. Is that good? All right. And so this horse knew the entire route, which included our house and included my grandfather's grocery store, Weislow's Market. If you've ever bought Polish sausage anywhere else, shame on you. But that was our neighborhood. And Herb delivered the milk. He even had a regular milkman's cap and a white jacket and this buggy with this horse. And my favorite recollection of him is he's leaving the front of my grandfather's store, and as he goes down the road, the first house beyond the alley is Fredrickson's, and he stops there, but the horse does it automatically. He doesn't have to say, whoa, horsey. He just steps off, and that horse waits for him. When he comes back with the empties, he still has another case of milk in his hands, and he just starts walking down the block to the DeLongs, that they lived on the corner. And he would go to the DeLong's back door, pick up the empties, put down the milk, and when he walked back to the road, the horse was right there. And then the horse, he would grab more milk, and the horse would turn the corner, and then he'd make delivery after delivery after delivery. Why is it important? It's important because Herbie had a packed crowd at his funeral yesterday. And there was accolade after accolade after accolade for the people that this life called Herbie had done. What kind of a person he was. And standing there in the middle of that group that had come to support the family in his death, somebody was talking about Spring Hill Camp in Everett, Michigan. Wow, the connection even got closer. Not only was he my milkman as a child, but he had donated the original 2 pieces of property for Spring Hill Camp, which is a non-denominational Christian camp, to be built on. I mean, who would have known? And then he's been on the board for it forever. Now, I hunted the background for probably 15 years. That was my favorite place for hunting because my father, who worked for the union, his job was to certify or recertify operators, and the operators then made the roads and rediverted the streams, and they built the BMX hills, and they built the ski hill, and then they dammed up the lake so that all of that could be there. And here this connection after all of these years comes back. The reason I think that we need to talk about that is because of the word today. Jesus talks about today, this hearing is fulfilled, and you get to be a part of it. This is what he's saying. Now, if we go back to when I was a child, and I ran out there probably 6 or 7 years old, and he is now has a truck with one of those steps up, the kind that you stand up to drive to deliver the milk. And he used to say, "Hey, Kenny, get on board." And he'd let me stand there, and he'd drive to the next house back a couple of blocks. I've never forgotten that. That day, he made a difference in my life. Every time we ran out there, he would, and listen, I have 8 brothers and sisters. My dad used to say that we had kids on Friday instead of fish. But you know something? Every time we ran out there, Herbie gave us a little bottle of chocolate milk. And one time I went out there, and nobody else was behind me, but I went out there, and he said, "Kenny, I don't have any more chocolate milk today." Everybody ordered it. But wait just a second. And he disappears into the back of the truck, and he comes out with a chunk of ice. Now, on a hot summer day, does that satisfy? Yeah. Oh, it really does. But that's the kind of person that Herbie was. Every day in his life, he touched somebody. He made a difference. And he's laying there in that casket, and he has no idea how many people are gathered there to celebrate his life because he made a difference. Today, the laughter and the narthex. Wow. We had the council meeting and the trustee meeting, and Sue had come there with me, and she was sitting out here reading, and she says, "I don't believe I've ever heard so much laughter, so much joy in that kind of a meeting." That's what this church does, and that's what we do every day. You're not going to know any more than Herbie knew the joy that you have brought to change the life of someone. But you can do it every day. You know, I was thinking about the TV dinners because way back then, they had just come out. And we still lived on Glade Street. And my uncles had put in a freezer. Can you imagine there were no freezers in the grocery store? This was new. And the first thing he put in was these little pot pies and the TV dinners. Now, I will always remember when I opened that TV dinner with that anticipation of what was on the cover. Yeah. Then you look at the cover again and you think, whoa. We're heading into the election season, right? And we have all the promises that look like the cover of that TV dinner. I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to change that. It's going to be free housing, free Medicare, and all of those things. All you got to do is vote for me. And then the reality comes and you open up the cover of those promises. Jesus is the promise.
Amen.
He is the promise. He comes and he fulfills this day. It's not about a resolution. It is about today. This hearing is fulfilled in your ear. Today we make a difference like Herbie did. And the rest of you do. You can be walking down the aisle at Myers. And I don't know what kind of day you're going to have. I don't know what kind of expectation you're going to have. But I can tell you this. If someone passes you, it is most likely they're carrying something that day. It is most likely that life doesn't appear to be perfect. And they need, among everything, they need your smile. And they need it today. Not tomorrow. Today. This is the chance that you get. I remember being in Myers. This has got to be, it was still the old layout there in Muskegon. So this was a long, long time ago. And walking down the aisle. And this woman was chastising her children. She had 3 children, and they were all over the place. No, honey, it wasn't you and your kids. They were all over the place. And she was red. And she was angry. And she was out of control. And so I walked up to her and I said, ma'am, excuse me, I'm not interfering, but I got to tell you, you got the most beautiful children I think I have ever seen. And she stopped in the middle of her raising her hand. And maybe that made a difference in those kids' lives, and it made a difference in their lives. It doesn't cost a lot to smile. As a matter of fact, you can give it away and keep it. You can give a hello. How are you? I wish you have a great day. Now, I know sometimes my wife gets a little agitated with me because I talk to a tree if it looked alone. And I talk to anybody. And what I want to do is wish them the blessings of that day because they may not know. They may not hear it anyplace else. But it's up to us. What a difference that we can make. As I was driving in here and thinking about the generosity of this church for an example, we don't have a lot of money, but we share what we've got. And it makes a difference in our community. It makes a difference in our church. It gives the laughter. It gives the celebration. It gives the hope. It gives the anticipation of tomorrow. What if everybody sitting in this room did this one simple little thing? What if you put in your will 10% for your church? That's all. Just a little bit. Gave that back to God. and you did that today, what difference will that make to this community, to this church, to our children coming up and whatever is happening in the future? Today is the day. Today is the day that we, each of us, can make a difference, but especially sharing that smile. And you probably already noticed, I'm a hugger. And you never, ever, ever get enough of those. So share it. You've got it. It's a gift of God, and we're so thankful for it. And so may I hear an amen.
Amen.